Alright, this is the third and final video for Chapter 6, and what we're going to start with here, as we're working through stuff, is the relationships between the two businesses in this B2B relationship. Now, I jumped ahead to the slide that has all 5 of the different components in here. So what I want to point out is that when you share information, both the supplier and the buyer can benefit with this. You can keep up to date with what's going on, what information is available, you know how the sales are going, you know exactly what inventory is needed. There's reduced uncertainty about the future. There's better planning be able to have there as well. But there is a little bit of a risk in the fact that if there's even a slight possibility that one of the two companies misuse the information, you just have to be very careful about that. Now, aside from cooperation and information sharing, they have operational linkages, which are the direct ties and direct lines between the internal operations of the buyer and the seller. Okay, the two different companies in this B2B. With this also is the just-in-time delivery, which is where you are getting the products, the person who is selling and supplying the products, they get their products to the buyer just before they need them. Just as inventory is starting to run low, you have them there. This reduces on the amount of inventory that you have to keep, and a lot of space is not taken up in your warehouse and in your storage rooms. Legal bonds that we're talking about at the very bottom, we're looking at things like the negotiated contracts, the agreement that you make, that you put into writing in regards to the buying and the selling, the stipulations of the buying and the selling agreements, and then relationship-specific adaptations, and that's where any kind of adaptations that involve changes in the products or the procedures that have to be unique for one company compared to all the others. Okay, one thing that comes up here that the book mentions that I want you to be aware of is outsourcing as well, which is when you have a contract with an outside firm to make the goods or provide the services rather than you do it yourself. Alright, checking your knowledge, Gotcha is a chain of trendy stores that's catering to the urban contemporary market. As part of its close relationship with suppliers, Gotcha has an internet site that is accessible only by the suppliers, and it provides up-to-the-minute point-of-sale information from all of the Gotcha stores. Suppliers can see how their products are doing at retail during any time of the day or at night. In the relationship between Gotcha and suppliers, the Gotcha supplier site is an example of which of the following. And that's an ideal, perfect example of information sharing between the suppliers and Gotcha. Alright, the buyer-seller relationships, the dynamics here. If you have one powerful company, an example of a powerful customer, like I mentioned in class, was that of Walmart. They do a lot of controlling of who is in their stores and how things are handled, and they have to follow all kinds of requirements and specifications to be able to sell their products there. So they are a very powerful customer and very demanding that you follow exact rules and specifications in order to be in their store and sell your products there. Buyers may still use several sources to reduce their risk. It's the whole don't put all your eggs in one basket mentality. Make sure that in case something goes wrong with one, you still have alternative sources of product coming in. So you have to just really protect yourself against any kind of unpredictable events that may occur. And variations in buying by customer type, depending upon who you're dealing with, different buying setups, different buying situations. You have to make sure that you are aware of what each person needs and meet those specific needs and or wants. Now, manufacturers, there are not as many manufacturers as there are end users, which is very true, but at the same point, there are the manufacturers are huge customers and spend a ton more money than any individual end user would. And in the United States, over half of the manufacturers have less than 10 workers, so there are not very many big manufacturers, but they still are very, very important, and they have a lot of money to spend in regards to buying products from other companies. The customers themselves, the business customers, cluster in geographic areas. The book mentions New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Texas, California, and Illinois, based upon industry concentration, are pretty high. Business data often classifies industry. What we're looking at here is a system called the NAICS code, N-A-I-C-S. NAICS code stands for North American Industry Classification System, and all this is a group of firms in similar lines of businesses use these codes to identify with certain product lines within a particular industry. And the next slide goes over the NAICS codes. So here's the example that the book uses, and if you're looking at the top, construction will always start with 23, manufacturing will always start with 31, retail 44, so on and so forth. They use the manufacturing one as our example, so as we go down, you always start with 31. And then when you go down to the next line, food manufacturing, you start with 31 and then you add a 1. Apparel starts with 31, you add a 5, whatever they happen to be. All right, down through apparel, you keep adding numbers as you get more specific, and the codes themselves just keep getting longer and longer and longer. So as you get more detailed and specific with each of the product lines, the numbers themselves will get longer. It's just used to identify what you're dealing with. All right, services. There are about 4.6 million service firms in the United States, according to the book's research. Some of the firms, you can really easily recognize some of the firms, but others are going to be quite small, mom and pop type stores. These are spread out geographically all over the country. There's usually not a whole lot of clustering that goes on here, but because of their smaller sizes, usually these are much smaller. Many service firms have buying procedures that may not be as formal as the larger organizations. Small service customers do a lot of internet buying as well because it's convenient, it's easy for them. They don't have to set up all the contracts and details that go into some of the larger purchasing. The retailers and the wholesalers, these are our intermediaries, and they are buying products based upon what their customers want to buy. They want to have the products in their stores that the customers want to purchase. So with this one, it tends to be very impersonal. They are continually watching computer output so that they know what is selling, what is not selling, what inventory they need to have in. A lot of this is just data-driven information, and that data will drive your decisions based upon what you have in your store, what you don't have in your store, what are you discounting to get out of the store, what inventory levels need to be refilled. A lot of these, you have the same products over and over again, so you're constantly using those straight rebuys for your reorders. Very simple, very quick, very efficient. Lastly is the government market. The government is just a huge market for businesses to be able to try to get into, but it is very, very difficult to get into the government market. It's a very attractive market just because of the size and the amount of money that they do spend. Can be federal, it can be state level, local level, can be foreign as well. Now, government buyers are restrained and constricted based upon regulations that are put in place. So a lot of times they are required to have those competitive bids in order to find out who they're going to be purchasing from. But even to be able to get on the list to give a bid is not easy and can be very difficult. They have this approved supplier list, so any kind of routine purchases that are made are usually through this approved supplier list. Excuse me. Now, dealing with foreign governments, might not have as much information available, might not be able to know exactly what they want or need, and there might be a lot of obstacles that you have to overcome in order to deal with foreign governments. Some foreign countries, it's okay or even ethical and legal for you to do like bribes and paying them off in order to be able to become the business that they are choosing to use. Now, the United States, that's not legal. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not legal. But there is this FCPA, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which will prohibit United States firms from paying bribes to any foreign officials to try to get their company in with a foreign government, try to get a leg up on the other companies as well. All right, and this is the end of Chapter 6. We'll be getting Chapter 7 up here in a little bit.